Good
Welcome
morning.
to Straight to the Source. I'm really excited to have you on here because Straight to the Source is really talking to people who are a source of information and inspiration. And I know that for us, you've been a source of inspiration in who you've been, in stepping into the work that you're doing and stepping into the realm that you're working in. And so I thought it really fitting as one of our clients that we're really pleased to have on board and really proud to be witnessing what you're doing, that it would be lovely to highlight some of your story that's going to resonate with other people, especially given that a lot of people want to be doing the kind of work that we get the opportunity to do, but they feel blocked, stopped, like it's just a pipe dream. It's maybe something that in an ideal world that would be possible. And I'm really seeing that out there right now in the world, that reality is reality. I can't really do what I wanted to do and what I love. And you've denied that trend. You've kind of gone against it and maybe partly not fully to your own doing, but who you've been in the process of you stepping into this realm has been inspiring. And I'm literally now doing a gratitude listing each day as a result of you sharing that with me and me realizing I deviated away from that, and I'm now incorporated that into my practice, which was inspired by you. So you know what, we're here to talk to
That
people who are inspiring, and that's inspired me. So this is hopefully the most that I'll talk, but I did want to open with just a share about how we see you and how you've shown up in this work. And then I'm really excited to hear your story and hear about where you've come from in your life and what your challenges have been and the things that have really been difficult or amazing and what you're doing now and what's, being considered for the future, what your future vision may be. So I want to hand it over to you and just give you an opportunity to just share a little bit about yourself now, what you're doing now, and then we'll start to go backwards and delve.
okay. Well, firstly, I want to say thank you and how grateful and honored that I am that you've asked me to do this. You mentioned about people dreaming about doing the work that I'm doing and or that we're doing. And for me, it still does feel like very surreal and very much dreamlike. And I love that you're doing gratitude list. It's been one of my, I think I've been doing my gratitude list close on to 20 years now, a daily spiritual practice. I've had moments where I let it ebb and flow and I come back to it, but it is definitely a very grounding practice that writing what I'm grateful for and focusing on what I'm grateful for in my life has really shifted and changed how I perceive the world and what's going on in my life. And even when things aren't traveling so well, and obviously we all have our stories of where it's not all shiny roses and floating off into the sunset all the time. So there are those challenging life moments, but viewing it with a view of gratitude for and seeing it as a lesson rather than a challenge. And one of the biggest things that has happened for me in the last 18 months is that I got made redundant. And somebody said to me, "Sue, this is happening for you, not to you." And so for me, shifting that perception, and that's what gratitude helps me do. I'm so grateful that I got made redundant because if I hadn't have got made redundant, I would still be dreaming about what I'm now doing rather than actually doing it. Because unless I was forced, I don't think I would have stepped into this world. And yeah, for that, I'm just truly grateful for the opportunity to get to live my life that I'm living now as a reality. So today, my life looks like coming to do a podcast with you. Pinch me, is this real? to talk about my business. I started my business, uh, I say 12 months ago. That's when I got the business name and the started to get things in action. But reality is, it's probably only been since November that I've started really getting an income from my business. So that's what, 4 months. So my week now looks like I do sound baths every week. Um, I got an opportunity to do work at a gym where I bring sound sessions to the members there. And I've gone back to something that I trained in 30 plus years ago that was a passion of mine, which is massage. So I do massage, sound, and yoga. So that's what I get to do and live my life doing today, which is very much a dream.
Wow. So for 4 months, like it's that's yeah, it's very, very fresh, right? But then leading up to like that official launching of your business, which is called Gratitude Flows, kind of makes sense, right? Considering how you've inspired me. Um, and but leading up to that point as well, there was a whole range of trust points that you had to leap into to to embody and to be able to deliver this work in such a short amount of time, which I would like to talk to that a little bit first, and then we'll kind of delve into your journey as a whole, and then we can come back to at the end and also talk about why it's been the way it's been and why it's so important and where you're heading. But I just think it's important now because it's like, oh, it got made redundant 18 months ago. Now, like 4 months into running your own business called Gratitude Flows, you're doing yoga, you're doing sound baths and sound trainings, crystal bowl workshops, and you're doing massage, you've got your own space. What happened in that 18 months? Like most people, what do? They will, oh, this has happened to me. I need to panic and go get another job or whatever it is. So I'm interested to really, start there.
So I had been working in the same job for close to 18 years. I started off as a part-time administrator, receptionist when my children were young. I was a single parent and I needed an income to support my little family. And I'd been in this job for 18 years. I progressed up to full time in a management position. I have to confess, I was a little bit of a workaholic, did extremely long hours. I loved, I loved what I did, and I wanted, I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and so gave a lot to my work. So when the talk of redundancy at work came up, the it was very uncertain times. It was, is this going to happen to me? Is this not going to happen to me? I've been through multiple restructures within that organization, and it was in the corporate world. I sat at a desk for 8 to 10 hours a day, sitting in front of a screen. And when the redundancy talk came up, I thought, look, I've not gotten redundancy. I've been lucky every time and I hadn't been affected. But this time it was a little bit more real and a little bit closer to home and a little bit more. I was sure that it was going to happen, and that was messing with my head. I was very stressed and also going through perimenopause and menopause. Hormones were changing, and there was lots of stuff going on. And I decided to put it out to the universe. I'm a great believer of putting things out to the universe that I needed to find something for me. And if I shoot back to 11 years ago, 2015, I did a very similar thing when my kids were growing up, I mentioned before that I'm a single parent, and as they were growing up, I had this thought that I didn't want to be this woman who was so focused on her kids. My oldest daughter was very heavily into soccer, so I was a soccer mum. And I didn't want to lose myself as they grew up and moved out. So I put it out to the universe in 2015. One New Year's Day, I think it was New Year's Day, I sat down and I said, I want fun, fitness, and friendship. And that was the journey where I started on my yoga journey. And I continued on that, doing it for my own self practice. Opportunities came up and ideas about doing my teacher training. And I always said, oh, I'm not good enough. I would have this vision that when I had a daily practice, that's when I would be good enough to do my yoga teacher training. And again, not necessarily, I didn't have it in my head to teach. I just wanted to do it to deepen my own practice. And so when this redundancy was on the cards, I bumped into a friend, a dear friend, and she looked exhausted, but she looked so happy. And I said to her, what are you doing? And she said, oh, I'm so sore, but I've had the best day. I'm doing my yoga teacher training, and we've just had a full 8 hour practical training session. And I looked at her, and she looked like if I'm being honest, which I like to be, she would have been one of my friends that I saw as doing her yoga teacher training. I knew she liked yoga, and we'd done yoga together at a class, but I kind of went, well, if she can do this, what is stopping me? And that was the catalyst for me to pick up the phone, reach out to the studio where she did her teacher training, and I got the last spot on that yoga teacher training. And again, I'm very much a believer in everything happens for a reason. And if I'm meant to do something, that spot would be available, and it was. And when I realized where I was doing that yoga teacher training, earlier on in that year, I'd been to a yoga festival, and I'd seen it was actually organized by the studio where I signed up to do my yoga teacher training, but I hadn't joined the dots. My, who I choose to call my higher power or the universe, I like to say that I get to see the tapestry of life that my universe is creating for me. And I see all the knots and the little strings on the back of the tapestry. But my higher power gets to see the beautiful tapestry of life. And so looking back in hindsight, I could see that Yin Yoga was placed in my path for a reason, because 9 months on, I signed up to do their yoga teacher training through meeting up with a friend. Now, at that yoga festival is where I met yourself and Elise. And I can't say that I actually met you. I did one of your sound sessions. I was very shy
Yeah.
and very reserved, and I don't think I spoke to you at that session. But again, it resonated with me. I loved the sound, but my head told me that I wasn't good enough. It was never on, I never saw it as part of my journey. And then in the May, I came to that in the February. In the May, I went to another yoga festival with my yogi friends in the city. And again, Source 88 was there. And I think I plucked up the courage and spoke to Elise after the sound session and took one of your brochures. And again, I'm like, this isn't for me. I can't justify spending X amount of money on crystal bowls, or it was just a dream. Like to me, it felt like an illusion that it was a reality for you guys, but it wasn't my reality. And so I continued on. That was in the May. And then the redundancy really the talk started in the June, July. And I think I started my yoga teacher training in maybe the October of that year. And during that time from May to October, I think Source 88 popped up on my Facebook page, your level 1 crystal bowl workshop. And so I signed up for it. And because you had an offer on with level 1 and level 2, I signed up for both of them, and I included a bowl because I thought, oh, well, one bowl, I can afford that with the course. And I think I came to your course in October. It was over at Mona Vale. And I suppose all of these things, I was just very open in that year to saying yes to whatever came into my path.
Yeah.
And I absolutely loved level 1. And I literally, at the end of that, you talked about the crystal bowls, and I purchased my set of crystal bowls on that day at the end of that course. And then 2 days later, I found out that I'd been made redundant. Now, synchronicity and timing is everything, because if I'd have known about the redundancy, I would never have bought those bowls. If I'd have known it was definitely happening, I would never have bought those bowls. And so now I had a set of bowls. I did the level 2 workshop, and I think then I signed up for your voice activation. I just loved the crystal bowls so much and playing them. But again, didn't see it as, I saw it as just this is the thing I do. Maybe I can use it in my yoga. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that I would be leading sounds and taking people on their own journey with that. So that's what led
Sorry,
me
sorry.
up
So
to, yeah,
just to clarify, that you're talking that now, that was the journey through 2024, right?
yes,
So
yeah,
May till October 2024 was Yin Yoga and the yoga teaching, and then come end of
yep,
2024 you did
yep,
level 1 and level 2. So it's not that
yep.
long ago,
No,
right? And
just
then
over
2 days
12
after
months.
level 1, made redundant. And before, like, thinking not in your wildest dreams that any of this could be your reality, right? Yeah, cool.
No,
Carry on. I
yeah. I
love
get
the
a bit
story.
lost in my
It's amazing.
story, so please stop me.
No,
So
no,
the
it's
redundancy
great.
happened, and on the 20th of November, 2024, I found out about the redundancy at work, and everything was confirmed. On that same day, about an hour before I found out about the redundancy, I received an email from my real estate saying that the lease on my house had been terminated due to the landlord wanting to move back into the house. And I had 3 months to find somewhere else to live. And getting one of those pieces of news, I would have thought would have brought me undone. But because I was in this space of, I'd been doing yoga, I'd been practicing my meditation, I'd been doing my sound bowls, I was actually okay and knew that I would be supported through that period of time. And hearing those words that someone said to me, Sue, this is happening for you, not to you. Because if I back up before the redundancy, I'd been talking for a number of years that I wasn't 100% happy in my job. I'd taken long service leave about 3 years before the redundancy. And was saying back then, when I've taken my long service leave, I took some time to go home to visit my family in the UK, and I'll look for another job then. There was always this thing that when this happens, that's when I'll look for something else to do. And so getting this news, I did have some tears on that day. I felt my emotions. I had a good cry. But from that moment on, I was just trusting in the process, trusting that the knots and the threads that I was seeing on the back of my tapestry were something good was going to come out of that. So exactly 4 weeks to the day, on the 20th of December, I walked out of my job and I walked into my now new rental property. I picked up the keys and moved into a beautiful new home with my two adult children. And yeah, started to think about what I was going to do from there. And because I had been with the company for a while, I got a redundancy package, and I had some long service and holiday pay and all of that kind of stuff, which I made a decision to take some time to finish my yoga course, which was, I probably wouldn't have finished it if I'd have still been working the ridiculous hours that I was working. And in the January of 2025, I wrote my future self a letter. And in that letter, I reflected on what 2025 looked like and what I had done. And I was sitting on a beach in Bali, listening to the waves. I'd just done a retreat in Bali where I'd incorporated my sound, my crystal bowls, and I had this business called Gratitude Flows, and it was bringing me an income. And I'd finished my yoga teacher training. I'd done some other yoga training, which I ended up doing, some of which I did in Bali. And I was holding my own crystal bowl workshops, not workshops. I don't think that was part of that letter. I hadn't seen that little thread hanging, but I was definitely doing group sound healings and incorporating my massage into all of that. And in June of 2025, just when I'd finished my yoga teacher training, a friend was running a retreat in Bali, and she asked me to go on that retreat as the yoga and the sound facilitator. And so here I am, 6 months after being made redundant on the beautiful island of Bali, guiding people through sound and yoga experiences, which again, pinch me, is this my reality? It just blows my mind. I had a month in Bali, not a sue decision I would have made logically in my head when I didn't have an income coming in. And so, yes, just trusting the universe, but also doing the work. In that future letter that I wrote to myself, I had monthly goals and what I needed to do to set up my business in that. So it might be like, I remember one of my goals was get your ABN, this month you're going to get your business name. When I found out I was going to Bali, it was like, renew your passport, make sure that you have like some class plans and things like that. So there were lots of little things that I was ticking off every month, but I did a 12-month plan. And within that, I think in the June, I kind of got a little bit, I was ticking things off until the June, and I went to Bali, and then I came back, set up the business, and I kind of lost myself in that 12-month plan. So this year I'm doing a very similar thing, but I'm going to revisit it at 6 months because 12 months seems such a long way away, and so much changes in that time. And I think it was in June or July that I started doing my level 1 facilitator training for crystal bowl workshops, which, yeah, like I say, wasn't even on my radar at the in
Yeah.
2025.
Yeah, that would have been July. It was mid July we started the Crystal Ball facilitator training, and like even that in its own right, like 6 month program, significant investment, um, another big leap of faith at that point, and it would have been easy just to say, oh, I need to make more money before I spend more money, and like all the things that we say to ourselves, um, which comes up a lot. A lot of people, like it's literally my meditation this morning. It costs a lot of money to invest in yourself, and to get you on the path to where you desire to be. But it costs a lot more not to do that.
Yeah.
And the cost that you give away is energetically and vibrationally and even financially, because when you're doing what doesn't resonate with your soul and your heart, it impacts you physically, it impacts you mentally, it impacts you environmentally, it impacts you emotionally. So yeah, it's so interesting. Like, I literally was reflecting this morning, like, whatever the cost is, and it's not, when we started our business, we spent $10,000, nearly $11,000 with um, some ladies at the start to help us get going. You know,
Yeah.
like that money was a godsend. I spent another, 3 grand on my mentorship program with breathwork and sound, and then thousands and thousands of dollars on instruments. And it's like, now I get to do this full time and live a life that I never would have dreamed of, like you pinch me. But it's like,
Just
mm,
reflecting about
you
the
have
money
to.
side of things, I was left a small inheritance from my grandfather probably 10 years ago. Didn't touch that money hardly at all. And I'd often question myself, like, as I was a single parent, I didn't I wasn't getting income from anywhere else, and I was working full time, but I didn't actually touch that money. And I questioned, why am I just having that money sitting there? Um, Again, didn't fully realize that the universe had a plan for me, so that when I did get made redundant, I was able to invest in myself. I had that little nest egg, and it wasn't a huge amount, but it was enough to support me and give me that 6 months of really investing in myself, getting my all of the courses that I did during that time. So again, just that little view of the back of the tapestry, that was a little thread on the back of the tapestry, and now I see that part of the tapestry that has led me to be able to do this. If I'd spent that money when I got it, if I'd have blown it, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. I might have had to get another job. So it's really interesting. And I
Yeah.
really believe that hindsight is a gift, because as long as I remember to look back with gratitude for those things, and
Mm,
then, like, do you know what I mean? I can kind of trust, that gives me the momentum and energy and the forethinking to trust that I've always been looked after. I might not know why this is
yeah.
happening to me right now, but I've always been looked
Yeah.
after. And that's still happening today. I didn't work for 3 weeks over Christmas because the gym closed down, and I did have a bit of panic about how am I going to pay my rent. But I ended up doing my level 1 crystal bowl workshop. I did some extra massages. The money just came in when I couldn't logically think how that was going to happen. So I still have moments of
Yeah.
financial fear, but as long as
Mm,
I'm handing that over, trusting and doing my own inner work, because obviously the inner work, it's never about anyone else around me. It's always about me. As long as I'm doing
mm,
that stuff, I kind of find that the money comes, and it's usually exactly the amount that I need for whatever. And I found that throughout my life with my girls as single parent, whenever, like with my daughter playing soccer, she played at, uh, what do you call it? Premier League. And so the fees weren't exactly cheap. And I didn't want her to miss out because I was a single parent, and the money would just drop in. I'd get a tax return that wasn't expected, or Centrelink had underpaid me for my family tax, or whatever it might be, or some money would come in some shape or form, and it would be more or less to the dollar of what I needed to enable my daughter to be able to give my daughter the things that I didn't think I'd be able to.
yeah. And I do really love what you're saying too, just about we're not putting forward your story as a facade of perfection, right? Our story's not like that. Your story's not like that. Nobody's is. Like, we can't bypass those experiences when things seem to be illogical and impossible that are right in front of us next week. Oh my God, I don't even know how I'm going to pay my rent. We that experience is repeats quite often in different realms, and we all have different trigger points. As to, well, it could be for some of us it's money, for others of it it's support and love of others, or whatever it is. So I appreciate you sharing that too, because it's not to be bypassed, but it's also in the work and coming back to that point of gratitude and trust, where you realize, well, the evidence really suggests that I've always been protected, and yet I
Yeah.
still need to feel this feeling, and that's
And also
showing me what
too,
there
I
is for
think,
to witness.
I think too, it shows about how sometimes we can take things granted. I took my regular fortnightly pay packet, like I appreciated it and I was grateful for it, but I took for granted that it was always there. That income was always in my bank account on every second Thursday, whatever day it was. Um, and now I'm getting an opportunity to show up in my financial freedom in a different way. It certainly looks very different, but I'm very grateful. An example I shared the other week was I can't afford to pay for gym membership right now because I don't have disposable income like I did before. But I'm blessed to work at this beautiful gym where they've included a membership for me, which has this beautiful wellness center. I get to do sound there. Um, and plus my space that I'm in today that I rent through a yoga studio, I get a yoga membership. So even though it's not physical money, I'm getting these energetic exchanges that I could quite overlook, think I'm not getting as much money as I used to. And so, yeah, I'm really grateful for the energy exchanges that I'm having as well. And same with some of my peers, like people that are doing massages or sound, I'm able to do swaps with them because I don't have that disposable income that I used to have, but I'm much
Yeah.
happier in my life today than what I was working 8 to 10 hours a day and struggling to find time for
Yeah.
stillness and doing my practices.
So, just in what you're saying, how would you say that you've redefined, like, even the term abundance? Like, what did you used to think that meant, and what do you feel like that means now?
So for me today, I'm very blessed. Like I've been on a spiritual journey for the last 20 years. And so for me, abundance is freedom from overthinking, freedom from fear, freedom from living in the past or the future. And I really try today to stay grounded in the present moment. So abundance is that's a bit of a, I haven't really sat and reflected on that too much lately, but I have an abundance of time. I get to choose how I use that. Do I sit and watch Netflix or TV? Or do I choose to play my crystal balls? And the honest answer is that sometimes I choose to sit and watch TV, and then other times I get to choose to play my crystal bowls and get to experience what each of those things feel like for me afterwards. Like, how good do I feel when I've binge watched a series for 2 days, opposed to I get up and I do my yoga, I do my sound. And I think the universe is showing me, allowing me to have both of those choices. So for me, abundance is about choices and not necessarily about things. Historically, I always wanted, and I'm talking a long time ago, wanted what other people had. And today I don't do that. So it's, to me, that means that I'm abundant in my own life, but it's not necessarily with material things. So I don't know
Yeah.
whether that answers the
Yeah, and I
question,
love that because
but
I think that's a big shift, right? Because, you know, and I think for even for where Elise and I are at now, I used to have an abundance of money. But what I missed was time, energy, time with my son, time doing the things that I loved. I had lots of things and I didn't have much time to do anything with them. Whereas now I don't have that many things. I got rid of it all. I let it all go. But I have an abundance of opportunity to spend time with myself, with my wife, with my children, doing what I love, putting energy into that. And to me, that is coming back full circle to where we were as a race, as a collective. And I think to me that's more important. It was all made about money, and actually, you know what? That's bullshit. It's actually bullshit, especially when you become a slave to it. You lose the truth of abundance, which is like you're saying there's nothing missing. I've got all the things that I need, and I'm not even not even having to pay for them. But I also have
mm,
all this time that I never had before to take care of your well-being, to take care of what's important to you, to also focus on your own business. And whilst there's this integration period of like I just want to have all the money that still comes up. I feel like this kind of lifestyle has so much purpose to it and so much shift and miracles and so many opportunities. It's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. But do you mind if we jump back and we have a little delve into the past of Sue Carmichael?
yeah.
And I really want to go right back to the beginning, wherever you want to go to. It's up to you. You get to choose. But what was it like growing up as Sue? Like, where were you? What was life like? What was the environment like? Go.
So I'm from the UK, not that you can tell by my accent. I've been here, I emigrated in 1993. And I stayed with a family when I first moved over here I was in my early 20s and they had four boys and they took the mickey out of every word that I said different. So I think this probably is a huge part of my story is that I just wanted to fit in. I didn't want people to make fun of me, even though it was like a it was just a friendly, brotherly. I stayed with a family and they were brothers and they just took the mickey out of everything. But I wanted to fit in because I didn't want to be different. So I think I practiced the words and dropped the accent pretty quick. But growing up in the UK, my memory of my childhood is a little bit sketchy. There's lots of periods of things that I don't necessarily remember. Um, and that's kind of a journey that I'm working through or have been working through. But I grew up, I had two parents. My parents were married and still are married. They're coming over for my youngest daughter's wedding in about a month's time. And yeah, we just lived in a little town called, well, not so little, a town called Luton, which is just about 30 miles north of London. And yeah, I have no remarkable thoughts about my childhood. I had an older brother and an older sister, and my mum, my mum was very passionate about her work. She taught knitting. She's used to do machine knitting, and she was very passionate about that. And my dad built her a little studio on the side of her house where she used to spend a lot of time knitting. And yeah, she was always doing something. And for those people that know me, I'm very much a doer. And so I think I got
Mm.
that from my mum. And I have to be careful
Yeah.
because today I'm always doing stuff, but over, I make it all about, well, it's fun stuff. So it's not really doing stuff. So the crystal bowls and the sound healing has really helped me to stop doing so much and know that I need the rest. And even this week, I did a sound session here on Sunday. And then afterwards, there was a yin class and a sound session. And I actually stayed and I'd forgotten how good the stillness feels because I still get
Mm.
busy. And even though it's fun stuff, whether it's going to the gym, the sauna, or like to me, that's like, well, it's self care, but it's not stillness and it's not finding that uh, deep, deep rest. So that is a memory from my childhood around my mum and my dad. Yeah, my dad just worked. And yeah, I really don't have that many memories other than we played cards. My grandparents loved playing cards, and every Sunday we used to go for dinner at my grandparents' house and we played cards. And it was my birthday earlier this month. And I said to my girls, they said, "What do you want to do for your birthday?" I said, "I just want to play cards. We haven't played cards probably since my parents were here last time." And so yeah, that's a fond memory uh, of my childhood. But other than that, I had a small group of friends going through school. I wasn't I wasn't popular. I wasn't in the in crowd, but I just had a small circle of friends. And then probably another key area of my life that I'm more aware of now through looking back is when I discovered boys and relationships, it was that always wanted to find the one that
Mm.
would make me happy, the one that would be the happily ever after. And that has been a repeated pattern in my journey through my relationships up until recently with my current partner. I get to practice with him all the things I've learned over the years of what not to be and how not to show up in a relationship. So I get to practice on
Mm.
him, lucky him. But yeah, always felt that if I could just make someone else happy, if they were happy, I would be happy. So again, a bit like with the changing my accent, becoming a bit of a chameleon to fit in,
Mm.
to be liked, to be loved, to be needed.
Yeah,
So yeah.
interesting. And
Yeah, but
how
not
would
too much
you
about my childhood.
describe yourself? How would you describe? Okay, you mentioning about boys. How old were you when boys kind of came onto the scene? Because obviously that was kind of like a fantasy, right? Like a
Mm,
fantasy that ended up being, misguided in giving
yeah.
yourself away or what makes you happy to make somebody else happy. Kind of how did that start, that journey?
Probably maybe 15 or 16. Um, and then when I was 19, I came to Australia and I did 4 years at college doing hairdressing and beauty therapy, which is where I started my massage um, journey. And at 19, when I finished college, my parents were coming over to Australia to visit my dad's brother, and they were coming for 3 months. And they said to me and my siblings, they've been planning it for 10 years. I think they've been doing some kind of savings plan for 10 years to come over. And I was the only one left at home. And they said, whoever's left at home and wants to come, you can come to Australia. And like I said, I'd just finished my training, and I decided to come for 12 months. And in that 12 months, I ended up meeting someone, and we traveled around Australia together. And then we had a long distance relationship, and I ended up marrying him and moving to the other side of the world in 1993. So yeah, just chasing that happily ever after, which wasn't actually a happily ever after.
Do you want to? Would you like to share some of what transpired as you obviously you've moved across the world? It's a huge leap of
Yeah,
faith. You're kind of chasing this um, ideal, ideal real. Um,
yeah.
what happened?
So we he wanted to buy a business, and we ended up buying a bakery in Parramatta because that was his trade. And me being so young, there was a 10-year age difference between this person and myself. And yeah, I mentioned before that workaholism was a problem for me, like working long hours, putting everything in it. And he was very much a workaholic. And so we had this business where he was working nights, I was running the shop during the day. And unfortunately, our marriage didn't survive that. And after, I think it was only 2 or 3 years of me emigrating to Australia, that our marriage ended. And yeah, living on the other side of the world, I had a lot of fear around what my family would think, what other people would think. And yeah, there was a lot of shame around that. And yeah, and then I met the father of my children, and we were together 11 years. But again, that was just an illusion of me trying to fix and control and trying to find that happily ever after. And that was an abusive relationship, which in the end I had to flee. And coming back to money, I walked away with from that marriage and that home with my two girls with nothing but a suitcase. So letting go of everything, and then seeing how I was supported by the universe and the family and the community that were around me at that time. I was very blessed. And I think that was the start. That was 20 years ago. And that was the start of my spiritual journey of trusting and knowing that there's a power greater than myself in this. I can't get what I'm looking for from any other person. I have to find that within myself first. And yeah, just knowing that I call them God shots. Looking back, when I left that marriage, I was homeless. I had nowhere to live. I had a choice between a domestic violence women's shelter, or a friend offered me to stay at her place, and we ended up staying there for 7 weeks before I found the perfect house, which was so ridiculously cheap in rent that I nearly didn't go and look at it. I thought it was going to be an absolute, well, not even worth looking. It was $150 a week. and it was 4 bedrooms. It was right opposite my daughter's school. And I'm like, I'm not even going to walk through the door. It's just not worth going in there. And for some reason, my friend said, come on, let's go have a look at it. Maybe they were sick of 3 extra people cramming onto their lounge. Um, but she came with me and we looked at it. And as soon as I walked over the threshold, I knew that was the perfect house for me. It was original kitchen, everything like that. But it was, it just felt like coming home. And I don't know why I got picked out of all the hundreds of applicants. And apparently there were hundreds. It took them a few weeks to decide. But I got that space. I had no job. I had no money. I had really nothing. And that was my home for the next 16 years. And it enabled me to bring my girls up in a safe environment. And that landlord, he's passed away now, but he was a gift. Again, we talked about abundance before. Like I didn't have like a flash kitchen or a new bathroom or any of those things. It was all very basic, but it was absolutely my safe space. And over that 16 years, the landlord barely put the rent up. I think over the 16 years, I think at the end I was paying maybe $200 for a 4 bedroom house in Sydney, unheard of, like cheapest rent in
Mm,
Sydney. And
wow.
I wasn't getting child support. I wasn't getting any financial assistance, but I was getting financial assistance from my higher power because if I'd have been paying, well, I think rent back then was about $300 a week. I was paying half of that. So it enabled me to, um, so again, just coming back to that gratitude and looking for those things might not look like abundance in the fact that I wasn't earning a great deal, but I wasn't paying out much in my rent. So,
Mm,
yeah, so I've been truly blessed. I had a friend in a church community that put it out there to her community and furnished a 4 bedroom house with hand me on. Somebody was moving out, they were getting rid of furniture. And yeah, so just truly blessed, just very grateful, very blessed. And uh, yeah, so that was my journey. And about four, I don't know, I was a manager in my role and I did a domestic violence course. And that's where I figured out that that's what I'd been living in. And I had no idea because it didn't fit the normal, what to me perceived as domestic violence, as of he never hit me, but there was a lot of control. Um, so yeah, I learned through my work. So I've just been this journey over the last 20 years of finding out who I am, what I like. Had no idea what I like, and even down to the colors. Um, I share this story, and it's quite funny. But I didn't know what my favorite color was. But I'd been married twice, and at my first wedding, my bridesmaids were purple. And at my second wedding, I wore a lilac purple color. And then I don't know when I realized that, oh wow, purple is one of my favorite colors. And yeah, I just really was low self-esteem, didn't believe in myself, didn't trust in myself. And so to look at myself today and see the person that I am through the stuff that I've done and the journey that I've been led on, it just blows my mind because yeah, it's like chalk and cheese to who I was.
yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting too. It's almost like in what you're saying, it's like these situations led you so far away from yourself that they were kind of the prompting to finding yourself, like
Yeah,
coming back to yourself and like really kind of discovering yourself, like even like discovering your favorite color, like it's really fascinating and beautiful to see that kind of soul journey that we have. Sometimes we need to be led so far away from the truth of who we are almost as the catalyst for change and as the lessons to confront and to then start the path back to self. It's really, really fascinating. And yeah, it would have been very hard. Like I was sitting there just thinking like how did this guy get away with like you leaving with nothing? How did he get away with not paying child support? You know, like there's, as a man who's paid a lot of child support, I just like, which has been a part of my journey. Um, you know, like, you know, that would have been really very challenging for you.
Yeah, he obviously has his own story and his own stuff going on, and I've come to peace with that, so much so that um recently, a couple of years ago now, um he approached me when he was doing his tax, and I was supposed to get some of that money back, but I was in such a situation where, after talking to my two girls and saying, look, your dad's approached me and I believe that money is for you, for the girls. And they both said to me, look, Mum, you've supported us. It's your decision, whatever you decide to do. And I was able to let go of that and just say to him, do whatever you need to do. You don't need to pay me any money. He was obviously in a much worse situation than I was. I'd been very much looked after in other ways. And through that, I found some peace, uh, and was able to let go of a lot of stuff.
Mm.
So it's
Wow.
very, very interesting. But like I say, going back to 2015, I have another story where that's where because I really believe that the key to why I'm doing what I'm doing is my trust in the universe. And I started following somebody called Gabby Bernstein, New York New York Times bestseller author, and I started following her journey and really resonated with some of the stuff she talked about asking for signs. And when she visited Australia in 2015, I just said to you that I'd asked for fun, fitness, and friendships, and I took myself to this workshop that she was running, and she talked about asking for a sign. And so I went away from that and I read a couple of her books, and I couldn't think what my sign would be. It was like, oh, maybe it's a butterfly, but I'd always be seeing butterflies. So I'm like, no, that's too obvious. So one particular time I was going through a bit of a dark stage. Obviously, some of my story that I've shared here. Um, I was seeking some counseling, and I was working, and I had two young kids who I was bringing up, and I'd made this appointment to go see a counselor, and I was just like so overwhelmed. I'm like, oh, I'm working, I've got to go home, I've got to cook dinner, I've got to do X, Y, and Z. I really don't have time to see this counselor. So again, putting my self-care and what I need on the back burner to be there for everyone else around me. And anyway, I'd already paid, which again, maybe you've picked up in this story. If I pay for something, I'm going to go ahead and do it because I wasn't flush in cash. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll go. And I left my office and I said to the universe, okay, universe, I'm going to test this theory. If I'm supposed to continue seeing this counselor, show me a VW car. And I was being a real smart ass. And I went, no, actually, show me a yellow VW car. And Gay Bernstein had talked about it didn't have to be the real thing. It could be on a birthday card or a bumper sticker or anything like that. So I'm driving there. I'm looking up every side street. I wanted to see this yellow VW car. I got there, I was early, so I walked around in the newsagents. I'm looking for a birthday card that had this little yellow VW car on it. Didn't find anything. Went into this counselor who'd I'd seen before, but on this particular day, she did some meditation with me, which she'd never done before. And she took me on this journey. She took me down these stairs and took me metaphorically down these stairs into a meditation and into a place. I was sitting by a stream and totally forgot about the yellow V dub. Loved the experience so much that I automatically booked in for my following session. Walked back out, totally forgotten about the sign. Was driving home, got to the traffic lights as I was about to turn onto my street, and there was a yellow V dub car sitting at the traffic lights. And what I got from that moment was the universe doesn't always give me what I want, but it'll always guide me on that journey. And after that day, and even today, 10 years later, yellow V dubs are my sign from the universe. And when I see with them, I feel very connected. And after that, they kind of went into mass production, and I would see them everywhere. And I even have friends all over the world that send me photos of yellow V dubs, and they see them because they know my story. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, just deepening my trust in the universe, and knowing that if I show up with the willingness and surrender, then the universe will always have my back.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting too when you were talking earlier. I was noticing some master numbers repeating in what you were talking about. In like you had an 11-year marriage, you moved to Australia in 93, so that's 33 years. I just love the way that there's these kind of, these really powerful numbers that play out in our life, and just kind of showing us if we want to believe in that kind of the power of numerology and those symbolisms and synchronicities, that it's purposeful, that it's cyclical, it's purposeful, it's soul planning, soul contracts, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, I had similar things in my life recently which blew my mind. I was like, wow, sometimes you don't even connect these dots until you start talking, and it's like, oh, wow, you know what I mean? So I do like I'm hearing in what you're saying that there are a number of major turning points, like that
Yeah.
kind of got you on this path, got you to experiencing the miracles that you experienced. Like, how do you get that house for so cheap and for so long out of all of those applicants? And oh, that's a coincidence. Yeah, it's a coincidence. Like, you get to live, you get to choose, right? You get to choose a life of coincidence or a life of miracles. Same life. You get to choose where you put your focus. You get to choose to be a victim, or you get to choose to be somebody who's the hero of your story. Same life. And I love that, like, what I hear and you're sharing is that you've chosen to be the hero. As much for yourself as for your girls, as now for your community, for society, for humanity. And I just think that's really special, and and that you should be really proud of that, actually.
Thank you. Yeah. It feels very surreal, but yeah, I love,
Yeah, it's,
and probably the biggest thing I've learned about my journey is I love who I am today, most of the time, not all of the
mm,
time, but I love who I am for me and for my family, and for my community around me and my friends. Whereas I couldn't say that 20
yep,
years ago, and I didn't love myself.
yeah, yeah, and it's such early days now with what you're doing. I I know you've just done recently your first crystal bowl training workshop, which you sold out,
Yes,
which you absolutely loved, which
I
people loved
loved
it
it.
as well. And we were so proud and grateful, because obviously it's connected to our purpose and it's connected to your purpose. But from where you stand now, like just projecting into the future, what do you see and feel is a part of what's important now, but also is going to be expanding in the future, or part of your future vision?
Okay, so in the next 12 months, because beyond that, I don't even have control of the next 12 months, but in my vision of what comes this year is the continuation of doing the level one crystal bowl workshops in my space here at New Yoga, and maybe in other venues, and even maybe in people's homes. So definitely want to share the love and of the crystal bowls with people, and getting the message across that it's not about, like, I don't have I did used to play the keyboards when I was younger, but I wouldn't say that I'm musical, but just knowing that it's a more intimate journey with the bowls for me, around I can play these, I can get feedback from people and myself that it's like anyone can do this. So I want to share that with people, whether they're yoga teachers or I had a lady come to my level one from Canberra to Sydney. She drove because she'd watched my journey. She's known my journey over the last, I've known her for a while, but especially over she's very interested in my journey around my redundancy and what I've done to set up my business. And she drove from Canberra to come to Sydney to see what these crystal bowls were all about, which just, again, blew my mind. But so yeah, just spreading the word of the crystal bowls. I am planning a retreat with a friend of mine later this year, and that will include yoga, sound, yoga nidra, yeah, all of the things that I do and I love will be incorporated into a weekend. And we're looking at a venue in the lower Blue Mountains. So I'm just putting that out to the universe. Not sure when that'll be or what that will look like. But if my hindsight is anything to go by, when I put it out there to the universe will deliver it, and it'll be far better than I could ever have imagined. So that's definitely on the cards. And yeah, just growing my business, my massage business, and with my massage, a point of difference that I'm hearing from people is how I incorporate my sound into my massage as well. And a bit like with the crystal bowls, how it's not about learning how to play the scales or the notes, or it's all very intuitive. My massage is very intuitive as well. So no two massages, even if I'm doing two hot stone massages on the same people, they're never the same, because I very much feel into what I'm doing. And I might play crystal bowl through your massage. It just is feeling into it rather than being probably what I was like before, very rigid in I have to follow the set routine, the set program. I'm feeling more into how that feels for me. So when expanding on that, I'm offering group sound healings every Sunday in my space here at Nin Yoga at Penrith, and other group offerings at other locations. And I'm also looking at doing some collaborations as well. So sound and maybe some breathwork collaborations later this year. So I don't see the front side of my tapestry. I'm still seeing the little knots of how do I make my Instagram look better, and how do I reach out to different people and find different things. But I'm just staying in the day and doing one day at a time. And just for today, I'm very grateful that I'm doing this podcast, and trusting that whatever I'm sharing is being shared for a reason. I don't know who it might touch or who might hear this that needs to hear this, but not making it about me and not making it perfect, because I don't want to. I don't want a perfect cookie cutter life. I don't want a perfect cookie cutter business, and I certainly don't have that. It's definitely trusting that whatever I'm meant to lean into, I'm guided to. And the feeling for 2026 is definitely sound. I'm feeling very called to do that. But what that looks like beyond
Mm.
that, I don't know. And I'm very open to whatever the universe wants to bring into my path.
Yeah, yeah, I do love that, and it is a fascinating journey when you kind of take the trust journey, because you just can't predict what's going to happen. Doors are opening and closing out of your control continually. But I think the thing that we've found and the thing that you're finding is that if you're willing to surrender and really willing to just follow the signs, that you will always be protected, and that the path will open up before you and continue to do so to the point where, yeah, it's becomes deeply purposeful and deeply impactful for yourself and for people in the world around you. And I think in what I hear about what you're sharing that resonates also with me is that getting to do something that genuinely makes people's lives better is such a gift.
Yeah. Yeah. And just knowing that this stuff works, and this is something that is quite close to me at the moment, because obviously I'm creating my business, I'm giving. I have to remember that I need to receive and keep doing this stuff, because
Mm.
without receiving this stuff and doing this stuff myself, I'm not being authentic, because that is what has helped me to find the stillness. So, like I said, on Sunday, I
Mm.
stayed and did a yin class and a sound class for me. And the benefits of that, because my head tells me stories, my head tells me that, Sue, you're not good enough, or who do you think you are sitting out the front of a class doing a, a, a sound bath or yoga? And I hear my clients say to me, Sue, oh my God, that was amazing, but my head still doesn't believe it. I actually have to physically get on the mat myself and receive that from someone else to go, oh,
Yeah.
they did exactly what I do. And yes, that feels amazing. So why aren't I believing that I'm good enough to do this? But again, that's just part of my own journey and my own, because this is so new to me, like what, 6 months in or whatever, 4 months in. And I'm one of those people that, I think I mentioned it before, and there's probably a few common threads throughout my story, is the perfectionist of me is thinks I have to be um, perfect from day one in anything that I do, and that's not reality. That's just my
Yeah.
head and my past thinking that if only things are different, I will feel better. But reality is, things are exactly as they're meant to be right here, right now, in this moment. And I think you said that to me maybe before we started the podcast. That was part of your vision this morning. And
Yeah.
yeah, right here, right now, I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. And I might not know the reason why I'm doing this podcast with you today, but I trust that it's going to lead me on part of my journey and support me on part of my journey. And just for today, I don't need to know what that looks like, which for me is freedom, freedom from having to know where I'm going.
It's 11:22 as you said that.
Wow.
All of
It's
that.
12,
That's
12:22 here. So
11:22. That, yeah, that's amazing. And I did want to also just ask you, like, how important has community been? How, like, stepping from, obviously working in a job that was consuming you and consuming your time, and like how big a part of your transition to what you're doing now has been around like-minded people and community.
Oh, everything. I don't think I could have done this without community. And I am truly blessed to have a number of communities that, like, I've got my yoga community here at the Nin Yoga Studio. I've got my Source 88 community, and very sad that we're not getting to see you face to face this weekend, but also grateful that we can do this on Zoom and have a catch ups, and the members of the group that are so supportive of my journey through this, and encouraging me and giving me feedback when I have those moments of going into self-doubt. And yeah, definitely yourself and Elise guiding me through this journey, and watching you on your journey, and kind of looking where you're at, like 6 years in front of me on your sound journey, and to think that that's a possibility. Like, do you know what I mean? To strive to be uh, on a similar path as to what you are, and just having you there for feedback and support. And yeah, the 6 months crystal bowl training workshop has just been amazing. And then to know that, like, ongoing, the future support is there. It's not like this is your course, it's ending on this date, and then you're off on your own. There's definitely been support and collaboration all along the way. And yeah, I'm very much a person that needs that community and people around me to keep me motivated. And I can feed off their energy, and hopefully they can feed off my energy, and that sharing. So definitely couldn't have done this
Yeah.
without the community.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love that, and I just also want to draw attention back to yourself as well, is that you've really used it to your advantage. Like it's actually quite interesting. I remember hearing a guy I was doing a high level course with many years ago, probably nearly 20 years ago, was saying, when people come and do training, even like very expensive training, they don't really reach out to the people running the programs. It's almost like they put them on a pedestal and make them untouchable, and like forget that they're there as a resource, which doesn't make any sense, right? I mean, some people kind of make themselves untouchable, but that's not who we are or how we are. And you've really shown up in the program, but you've also just been like, "Hey, I've got a question," or "Hey, like, what should I do here?" Or you know what I mean? Like, well, we're not meant to do it on our own. Like when we're running a program and we're trying to help people start out on their journey, of course we want to hear from them if you've got anything that's going on that you're uncertain about or whatever. So I really feel like, to honor who you've been in the programs that you've done, is you've really shown up. B, you've like reached out in voice notes or phone calls or whatever it is, and said, "Hey, can you look over this?" Or, "Hey, can you offer me guidance with this?" And that is a skill that more people should connect with, because firstly it's a sign of worthiness and trust, right? You're you trust that we see your worthiness, otherwise you wouldn't feel open to doing that. So I just wanted to put that in here, because like a lot of the time that doesn't happen with people. And like, it's not nobody else does it. I'm not saying that. Other people reach out to us, and we always love to be there. But that's a real, like keep that alive. Like keep that alive. That is such an important part of leaning into the collective. Like we're not meant to do this work together. We're not meant to do it on our own. We're not meant to work it all out. That's why we do training programs, to help you avoid a whole bunch of headaches that we didn't probably avoid. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to honor that, because that is a huge thing. And if I would say to anybody who wants to go and do big deep programs and learn from Sue, like, really put everything into it, and then come and ask and reach out and check in and ask us to check things. Like, we want you to win. We want you to do this work and change the world with us. So yeah, I'm just super honoring of that aspect of yourself. Is very powerful, and a part of why you've come so far in such a short amount of time.
Thank you. And I do really appreciate yours and Alicia's time, and yeah, have really resonated with both of your stories, and the connections and the friendships that have formed through doing that. So yeah, very grateful
Yeah,
for the communities.
yeah,
Because again, left to my own head, I would say I
yeah,
don't fit in.
yeah, yeah. Thank God we don't leave it to her anymore.
Yeah, 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 that's it.
Is there anything else you'd like to add at the end, just as you know, an offering for people who are on their own path? Anything that, Sue's pearls of wisdom?
These pearls of wisdom. I I would say that trusting, which is so easy to say when you're not in the situation, but I feel that I can say it because this is really what I had to do, was trust when I got made redundant, that this journey that I'm being guided on is exactly where I'm meant to be, and just I don't wait. Don't wait like I did. I wasted
Hmm.
a number of years just going, I'm not good enough. I can't do this. I'll do this when. And the universe got sick of me waiting. I don't know what I was waiting for. The universe just, see, I'm just going to shove you. Just go and do this. I'm going to give you the biggest shove of your life. And if not now, when? We just don't know how long we're here for, or when we're not going to be able to do this stuff. So trust that you're being guided, and yeah, just continue to keep doing that inner work, because unfortunately or fortunately, it's whenever something comes up within me, it's always me. I was looking for my answers in other people, but today I'm looking for the answers within myself, and then turning to the people that have walked this journey before me and can guide me, not fix me or do it for me. They're just guiding me, and knowing that that's the difference between how I used to be and how I am today. So yeah, maybe embracing that. Seeing where it leads you, it certainly led me on an exciting journey.
Quite the adventure. Quite the adventure that allows you to do a podcast at 11 o'clock on, what day is it? I don't know, whatever day it
I
is,
don't know, Wednesday,
Wednesday
maybe.
maybe?
Yeah.
I don't know. Not so dictated by the calendar anymore either, right?
No,
You know?
definitely not.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on here and sharing your story, and sharing, so much about your journey. Um, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting it out there for people to listen to and to look at. And yeah, we're so grateful to be, walking the path with you, and to to be a part of that for as long as the universe discerns that that's what's required, and yeah, just super grateful, super proud, and looking forward to the journey ahead with you.
Hey, hang around. You're going to find out who our next guest is in a fortnight. And it's worth waiting for. Well done for getting here. Not many people get here. You're one of the chosen ones. And welcome to the Straight to the Source Marvel Moment. See you next fortnight.